Hey guys, I'm Victoria from Craving Healing, a social media platform where we talk about eating disorders and mental health. And today we have an interview with Joy, who has a PhD in psychology. Make sure to like and follow and enjoy. Firstly, to introduce yourself, what is a psychologist and what do they do?
Okay, a psychologist has a very is a very broad field. So when you say I'm a psychologist, to me it doesn't mean a lot of things. You have to ask them, what's your field? What's your expertise? So a psychologist is someone that um, study have a training on people's minds and behavior and emotions and how to help them. So,
Mm-hmm.
but a psychologist is a very broad title. Some psychologists do, so like a child psychologist, right? Some psychologists do um, drug rehab, right? Some psychologists do, they focus on different type of behaviors that they or different clients. So I, as a school psychologist, I focused on the learning
Okay.
of the children. So my I can only see I can my clients would be from birth to 18-year-old. I'm a child psychologist in a way. Our training is
Oh,
very
okay.
limited to certain area.
Mm-hmm.
So there are so many, maybe 30, 40
Yeah.
specific training, specific titles. So it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to, but it's main focus on mental health.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So,
behavior too. Mm-hmm.
so what led you to become a psychologist?
What made me,
Yeah, like
you
what
said why
made,
I became, why I
yeah.
choose that field, right? It was a question. At the time I was in China and I love to read biographies or autobiographies. When I was
Mhm.
in college, I studied English literature at the
Yeah.
time and language. So I realized that a person's childhood really has great impact on the whole life, the goal they choose and how they treat, how they face life and how they handle struggles. So I always felt like that, wow, if I could help children, and so that they can grow healthily. So basically, I'm a child advocate. I want to help children and I enjoy working with children. That's why I choose school psychology.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what are your experiences like doing school psychology for kids?
Um, I I worked about 10 years in the United States after I get my PhD. And
Hmm.
basically, I as I just told you that I do a lot of assessment, psychological evaluations, and then we have a meeting. Like I'm one of the team member. We have a teacher, special ed teacher, school administrator, parent. We get together and regular classroom teacher, the child teacher. We
Yeah.
After I did that, we come together and I share the results. And my result is not the only data, but it's one of the quite important data because it's very detailed, right? When the child is not successful, we will suspect is it, and by law we did those tests. Okay, is it because are they slow learners? Are they have intellectual deficits like a
Mhm.
low IQ? Do they have learning disabilities?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's certain area and do they have some behavioral issues that we didn't know that, and so teacher usually give me a lot of information, and sometimes the teacher will say, okay, and the child has these issues but the parents, no, we don't see it at home, see that. So we come together as a team to assess, and if we realize that we decided that the child that meet the criteria for special education, then the special education will develop a IEP goal, individual education goal, a
Hmm.
program for the child. If the child doesn't qualify, we wonder whether, if the child need to follow up with a pediatrician or psychiatrist for certain medication. or any just private counseling. We give suggestions. That's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And I enjoy my job very much
Yeah.
because I love children and I work with children, and I it was a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
I my job not because I hate it. Okay, I
Yeah.
quit my job because I want to focus on my family. But I felt like that this is a great part of this country is that even when the family is middle class or affluent, they can easily find private psychologists to do
Yeah.
evaluation. But for some people who are poor, right, the
Mm-hmm.
parents may have the resource to do that, but the government, we are federal government employees, the government provide this kind of help for them, so they serve all kind of children. Is you understand that part? And also in my work, I came across, I would say, students and families that across all kind of background, family, social economic backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So especially I I I learned something about especially those who are in the low socioeconomic status. Came from that their struggle. They really, it's really, I like some cases it's very difficult, and so I provide service for them, and I
Yeah.
enjoy it a lot. Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's quite life changing experience for me.
Yeah, that's
Mhm,
good. Yeah,
mhm.
that's great. But so like, do you see any like similar patterns in the people you like look at school?
Um, of course, if they exhibit some of, for example, if they have learning disabilities, right? We have
Mm-hmm.
7 areas learning disability,
Yeah.
and sometimes the students, they when they struggle with learning, they tend to have low self-esteem. They say, I'm not smart.
Yeah.
Okay, how come I struggle? It's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Parents will say you don't work hard or whatever reason, but it provides an opportunity for me to encourage them, to
Yeah.
explain to them that, okay, you're smart. you
Mm-hmm.
know you have good IQ, but your learning style is different than the learning style that was than the instruction style in the classroom, regular classroom setting. And
Yeah.
you need a different way of learning also, that a special teacher may be able to help you. If you have if you don't have hearing problem, and but you don't understand what the teacher is talking about. It's
Mm-hmm.
not you have a low IQ, but the processing, maybe
Yeah.
the auditory processing issue, or this is an example. A student, once a student, I mean, he was smart. He didn't have trouble learning until middle school. He was great. He was smart. He have goal. He has a good family. And then starting in middle school, he struggles. And it's very frustrating for the parents and for the family, for the student too. But later, I through my work, I realized he has we call nonverbal learning disability. It's like he's verbal. He expresses himself well. He have a lot of good vocabulary, but it's the nonverbal one that it's the processing, it's the visual, how to see, and
Yeah.
also disorganization too. He's very disorganized, and in childhood, in elementary school, he didn't show that kind of problem. And so he has a hard time finding direction, so transition from class to class, like in middle school you have to do that, and that's very difficult for him because his sense of direction is weak.
Yeah.
Okay, this is so I was able to help all kinds of students that
Mm-hmm.
way, and it's very fulfilling. I enjoy my
Yeah.
job a lot.
Yeah. It like definitely is like something that like feels good after like a day of just like helping a bunch of students like figure out like some problems they might have with school. So yeah.
Yes, and sometimes it requires creativity.
Mm-hmm.
It just, it's not like you just have this category. Of course, you see the pattern, right? If
Yeah.
they have emotional issues, or they have behavioral issues, or their family is they have a dysfunctional family, that will be impacting on a lot of the
Yeah.
students, right? They don't, but at the same time, there are individual cases that you need to have wisdom to approach them and
Mhm.
to help them. So
Yeah.
yeah, most of the time I see patterns.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you say that like a bunch of the children that you work with have like some disorders and like some family issues. So how
Hmm.
does that affect their mental health?
Um, I think all these are in the category mental health, even learning disability, right? It's a disorder, in the
Yeah.
psychological manual. But one thing the school try to do, and it's teamwork, it's not just me.
Hmm.
It's to, as I explained to you just now, I encourage them and let them know you're not lazy. It's a disability, and
Yeah.
you are not, you're smart, but in this area you just need extra help or need another approach of learning. Sometimes it helps parents understand the real issue. For example, a child, elementary school kid, they may have failing grades in every area, okay? And you may think that they are not smart to learn, right? But
Hmm.
actually, they have a gifted IQ in the gifted range.
Yeah.
And because, for example, them have ADHD, and because they're so smart, okay, you didn't see that, there may be attention problem. And
Hmm.
if you don't see, he feel like, okay, the parents may, okay, this child may have low IQ, and she may feel that way too, like, why I'm like that, it's awful, school is it's terrible, right?
Yeah.
But then you figure out, okay, you have attention problem, severe attention problem, and your IQ is in a gifted range. So
Hmm.
we help them. We don't make diagnosis in the school setting. In the private practice setting, a psychologist can make diagnosis, but I don't in the school setting. We just describe the results, the data, and we recommend to the team to work. And if we need to refer them to a pediatrician or to a psychiatrist,
Hmm.
we do that. So that's how we help them. And in my job, particularly for my experience only.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
So like is there like a certain age that's most common that you work with for kids?
No, because for a school district, like the Wake County here is huge, right? So
Yeah.
usually a psychologist work go to 3 schools, and it depends on how they assign you. For example, I work, they may assign you to one elementary and two middle school, or one elementary, one middle school, one high school. So our age range is from birth to 18-year-old to finish high school, and there may be one psychologist or two. Usually for school district, they assign for preschooler. They do a preschool assessment, like a children 3-year-old, if they struggle, early intervention. The government in this country have programs for children. Whether we find out if they're slow, okay, then parents can request an evaluation, and we have psychology. But my minor is preschool assessment, but in my work usually it's from 4 pre-K in public school setting. So I was not assigned to preschool program, but some of my coworkers did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do they assign you like three schools a day or?
No, it's not 3. I take care of 3 schools psychological service. So
Oh,
they would send cases to us. They would send paperwork. They collect. The school decided, okay, this child need to see a psychologist. Come to refer to me. So
yeah.
I have, when I receive the case, I have received a lot of paperwork. including the child sample, work samples. Why you send it to me, you have to have a reason, right?
Yeah.
Parents into how they school, how they help the child already, the record, okay? And they have certain family background information, certain forms parents filled out.
Mm-hmm.
And I review the case, and then it's not like I go to 3 schools a day. I take care of 3 schools psychological service, but
Mm-hmm.
I have some flexibility. For example, we usually have our own office. We come back to our own office, and when we go to school, we have space to work with the children. And I can decide today I'm going to work on this child. I go to this school. Tomorrow I can work in my office, because when we finish a case, we have to write the psychological report.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I just at my desk doing my work. So if there is meeting scheduled for me, then I have to go. Like now
Okay.
I told you, when I finish a case, when I finish my psychological report, I send it to the to to each school. Each school district is different, but for my case I send it to the special ed office, and they will schedule a meeting, and the
Yeah.
meeting is not decided by me. They schedule and I have to go. So I go to certain school because meeting requires me to go. Otherwise I have flexibility. Maybe I go in the morning. I can schedule my own case. So I like it because it's flexible. If
Yeah.
if today I prefer to stay in my office, I'll do that. But there are timelines, so we try to meet the timeline and finish
Mm-hmm.
the case before the timeline, like that.
So like the timeline as in how long you work with the child or
It's like what the time the parents sign the consent form for me to see them.
okay.
And then they collect data and send the paperwork to me until we meet to discuss the
Yeah.
results. That's the timeline. And among this timeline, I finish, and then we have meeting.
Mm-hmm.
That's the timeline. And it's by the federal laws. Sometimes 90 days working calendar, 90 working days. Some
Yeah.
of the days depend. Maybe some different states may have different timeline too. They can
Yeah.
state refine their interpretation of the federal law, and then they have some detailed policies.
So 90 days of like working with the student, like having meetings and like all that whole process of the timeline.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I don't work just with one case. I have many cases coming
Yeah.
to me, and then I do my own planning and go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you plan beforehand before meeting with someone?
Um, Usually I would review the paperwork. Of course, I got the paperwork, right?
Yeah.
And if possible, I try to interview parent. Even they have some information, family, whether parents are divorced, something like that. How
Yeah.
many siblings and any family history. So I have some data, but for me, I like to at least phone call the parent and interview them to ask more detailed questions. I
Yeah.
also Teacher also provide some information for me. So it depends on some psychologists. I like to go to talk to the teacher
Mm-hmm.
face
Yeah.
to face, during the recess time, just even 20 minutes. I want to ask more questions about how the child is doing. Sometimes for young children, I go to the classroom to observe them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I on the day because I have consent from the parents, so I can pull out the student from his or her classrooms,
Yeah.
and then I do one-on-one work with them. Sometimes take 1 day, sometimes take two, or sometimes take three, depend on how I just try to finish. And as I work with the children, I there are some basic protocols, like a basic assessment tools I'm going to use. But then based on the need of the student, I may do some more assessment, testing. So, and then I come back, I interpret the results, I write the psychological report.
Mhm.
And then I give the report to the special ed office, and then they schedule meeting, and I go, and I have to share the results with the team to the parents.
Okay.
A lot of technical terms and answer their questions,
Yeah.
and I give recommendation too.
Yeah. So after that, like, do they go to a psychiatrist if they have problems? Like, what happens after you meet with them and you figure out like what's
If,
going
if,
on?
if it's a severe case, like a behavioral issue, so severe, right, or severe depression, we would recommend parents follow up with a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And special program also have a classroom to help children with behavioral issue, not learning issue. Some like LD, learning disability, then they
Yeah.
go, but there are program for behavioral, like acting out conduct problem, those things, and emotional struggles, student with emotional struggles. So not always, but yes, we sometimes we make recommendations, and the parents follow up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to you, what is mental health?
Mental health it's a scientific field that deal with emotional struggles, behavioral struggles with
Yeah.
mind things. Yeah, not
Yeah.
physical.
Yeah.
Sometimes physical problem can impact on your learning, and it become a mental health issue too. For example, if a child have a car accident and have brain injury, right? The brain it impact on their learning. Then
Yeah.
we see them, we provide service for them too. But the diagnosis brain injuries from doctors, from pediatrician, those people. But when they come to school, they struggle with learning. Then we help them. So when you say mental health, it's a very broad field. I just work with a very small group of students. So
Mhm.
it's about learning. I work with just learning, related to learning. So it's
Yeah.
called educational psychology or school psychology.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So why do you think mental health is so important?
Um, because um, because it have because if a person with a severe mental health issues, it can impact negatively in their life. So for diagnosis, it's like they severely interfere with their learning, with their living.
Hmm.
They cannot normally,
Yeah.
okay, carry on function. For example, if someone doesn't like social interaction, that's okay. But if it's so severe that they could not, they're scared to go to school,
Yeah.
right? That's severely interfere with their life, then that's become an issue. You
Yeah.
can, okay.
Wait, that's like basically all the questions I have for today.
Okay. If you
Okay,
have
thank
any
you.
more questions, you can.
Okay. Thank you for interviewing with me though.
Oh, you're welcome.
We
Yes.
learned a lot from this.
And I hope I answer your questions.